He doesn't want an outright fight because Dr. Mitchell would like an outright fight because he has nothing to lose. And I want to repeat, Dr. Mitchell has nothing to lose but to fight. I think he has reached that position. He can't do it and he will destroy it. I've made many statements before that Dr. Mitchell has not managed the party properly. He has not managed the country properly. And I say that of all the CARICOM leaders, they have failed our people.
Sir, it's good to have you again.
Good morning, and it's good being on your report. The Bob
Yes,
report is always enlightening. Thank you, and good morning to you and all of your listeners.
absolutely. Mr. Lalsingh, I would say perhaps the main surprise that we witnessed was your successor MP in St. Patrick, Westminster, Anthony Boatswain. Were you surprised by his comments on GBN's Beyond the Headlines?
Well, before I go to the comment, I just want to make a very broad statement.
Yes, sir.
Most people vying for political office, I think what cloud their mind and what is more important to them is that they're vying for an office that they want to get in, not because they want to help the country, not because they want to develop the people in the country, but they're looking for probably the best job they could ever had. And so they live all their life in politics, but the focus is on themselves and not the country and not the people. To go directly to the question, I am not surprised, and I'm happy that Anthony Boatswain, a well-respected MP and minister, would break his silence, and I think what he said is absolutely correct in that politicians continue to play games with the people, with the party, because as you have those silly comments, one for the road, give me the thing. Politics is serious business. Running a government is a very serious business. And we have to take it more seriously. And we cannot just want the thing or we want power without first acknowledging that we are capable of managing the monies. The biggest business in any country is the government, and we have to take it seriously. Now, a lot of leaders, even Mr. Blaze, did not take it seriously. He just wanted to remain power at all costs until he lost it. And so Dr. Mitchell is doing the same thing, and I believe it's a matter of time. He will get the reality very soon. But I am happy that Mr. Boatswain have broken his silence on the matter.
Well, so Mr. Boatswain articulated several issues there in that conversation on Beyond the Headlines. One of the issues that really surprised me is that he felt as if the people who are challenging Dr. Mitchell for leadership, they're not necessarily really challenging Dr. Mitchell for leadership. They're sort of nibbling around the edges around the conversation of leadership. What's your thoughts on what he articulated there?
Well, I think the people who are doing it, and I look at Peter David as the most outstanding candidate for the job. I think he is treading carefully. He made it very clear that he's interested in the position based on former statement by Dr. Mitchell that he will not be running again. And I think he is quite right to offer himself. Politics, like everything else, you must offer yourself, say why you're offering yourself, and show your capability. So I think, yes, he doesn't want an outright fight because Dr. Mitchell would like an outright fight because he has nothing to lose. And I want to repeat, Dr. Mitchell has nothing to lose but to fight. And there's an old saying, you will burn a church to light
To
a
roast the
cigarette.
peanuts. To roast the peanuts.
So I think he has reached that position.
Mhm.
He can't do it, and he will destroy it. You know, I've made many statements before that Dr. Mitchell has not managed the party properly. He has not managed the country properly. And I say that of all the CARICOM leaders, they have failed our people. When I look at development in Southeast Asia, Europe, North America, I believe we have failed because the development process that should really take place never took place. And he is one of them, I can say. What he did, he collected monies and he spent money. Where are the projects? Of course, when he just started in his first 3 terms, he did a few projects that we never had. And I remember saying to him one day, Doc, the next thing you need to do is to concentrate on the infrastructure. More and more cars are coming into the country, and you can't stop it. If you tax them more, you'll get more money. But lives are improving. I say, you have helped people to improve their lives. Obviously, if they have excess money, they will purchase vehicles. So your next move must be to deal with development of the infrastructure. But it never happened. It never happened, you know. And so I say that to say, you must lead and lead from the front. And I agree with the people, especially Peter David, not wanting to pick a fight. You pick a fight with Dr. Mitchell, and he will destroy everything around us.
And that we see this play out, because I mean, and let us backtrack a bit here. When Peter David announced that his intention was to seek the leadership of the party here on the Bub Report, Dr. Mitchell subsequently appeared on another platform, one of his platforms, one of the NNP platforms at least, and he said he was actually very triggered by that. You know, he said folks should not be talking about leadership. And so my thinking is, why should folks not be talking about leadership when you in fact telegraphed that you will be paving the way for new leadership to occur in the party?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
so it appears to me as if there is a double speak there. Would you agree?
Of course, he is double speaking. He always double speak. He talks in 2 tongues, as they would say. He double speak. He say one thing, but he doesn't really mean it. And he have said that before. But he plays on the ego, and he plays on the minds of the people around him. One thing we have to bear in mind: people like power and glory, and they will play up to any leader. They will play up to any leader because they don't want to be left out. Now, I am very clear in my position. If I believe I can't work in an environment, I get it out. I will get out. And that's what I've always done. When I can't work and I'm not comfortable, because power and glory does not glorify me. Unfortunately, I want to repeat, Dr. Mitchell talks in 2 tongues. He say one thing, but he means something else. I remember when I resigned from the government in 2014, he made it very clear to me he wanted to bring in Peter David. He said, Kenny, you have your business. I want to bring in Peter David. He has a long future in politics, and so I want to bring him in. I resigned because he felt that Peter David is someone he needs in the party that can take the party onward when he retires. But he says all this thing sometimes to justify his internal ego and nothing else.
And we have seen this, of course, if what we also saw last week in respect of Burt Brathwaite. Burt Brathwaite spoke out on Callisto Faria's The Narrative, and Burt Brathwaite was sanctioned for that. Obviously, Dr. Burt Brathwaite is not a member of the executive. However, he has been invited to executive meetings, as were other senior members of the party with good standing and long-standing history with the party. And so after Bud Brathwaite, and I felt as if in that interview, Bud Brathwaite took great pains to praise Dr. Mitchell in that interview that he did. And he was very careful not to be overly critical of the leader of the party, while also articulating that he does want to see change in the organization. But we saw what happened to him last week. So is this going to be the situation where anyone who dares to challenge Dr. Mitchell publicly would receive the same fate as Dr. Brathwaite?
Well, Dr. Mitchell will do that to anybody who openly confronts him while they are members of the party. He has nothing to lose. He has nothing to lose. And if you confront him, he will discipline you. Dr. Brathwaite is a very decent man, well-meaning person. He wants to see the NNP grow and continue. He wants to see the Grenada continue to improve. So he's a very decent man. And when he comes on the air and speak like that, you know, I know he has been for years, he has been suffering internally because many things he doesn't like what is going on. But because he's such a committed NNPite, Grenadian,
he's a loyalist. Yeah.
Loyal.
Yeah.
He dare not say anything, but I guess he reached a point where he had to say something. And I congratulate him for that. And I wish more people will speak. Unfortunately, though, I don't like people being in a party and organization and going public. I don't believe it's wise. I have never done it. Anytime you see I have to disagree, I do it outside. So I don't believe in that kind of thing. But I guess it become overbearing. And all Dr. Brathwaite was wanted to see, let NNP move to a democratic position, have a convention, and elect the best person. But Dr. Mitchell doesn't want a convention because he knows fully well he will lose. He will surely lose the leadership. And he's trying to use some of the ladies in order to remain in power. So all his life he has remained. You know, recently when the government increased salaries, all of them happy for the salary because they were getting very little, they were getting peanuts. All of them were happy to get the constituency money, plus their own salary as an MP. Privately, they're so happy. Dr. Mitchell asked them to refuse it. He didn't want them to get it because he wanted them to remain humble and poor. And that's the kind of man he is.
Now, what I hear you saying here, Mr. Lalsingh, two follow-ups here based on what you just articulated, is that would you say that therefore you do not agree with Dr. Brathwaite's approach in respect of speaking out publicly on the leadership issues that are currently confronting the party? Should he not have spoken out publicly?
No, I think he should. You know, I'm only telling you my position is.
What your position is, you would not have done that.
If I am a member of an organization and I want to go public, and then the record from Kenny Lalsingh will show, if I want to go public, I get out.
Okay.
Not everybody will take position like me, but I'm still happy that Dr. Brathwaite was brave enough to do it. Because I believe he didn't do it from malice. I think he did it because genuinely he wanted to see democracy return to the new National Party. So I'm not really blaming him, but I understand why he did that.
Okay. Now, the party's argument will be, well, that Dr. Brathwaite needs to follow rules and conventions. I suspect maybe that there are confidentiality rules. Not that I know that Dr. Brathwaite leaked anything in relation to what he said on the narrative. Those were just general comments. But the party may say, well, perhaps you should not be speaking ill of your leadership in the way that he did and still want to have the privilege of sitting on the executive. What are your thoughts on that counter narrative?
This should go for everybody in the party. that you should respect the party's constitution. Is the party respecting the constitution right now? No. The constitution calls for 2 general council every year and 1 convention. So the party itself and all of those who are talking are breaking the rules of the constitution. So they cannot single out Dr. Bradford. They are violating the constitution. You're an active party. It tells you must have general council. You must have convention. That is our democratic political party function. Now, if you are leading a party and you are not doing that, then you are violating the constitution. And therefore, the ladies who come and speak about Dr. Bradford, they should take up the issue why you're not having convention. And if they cannot take up that issue, then they have no voice to be speaking about Dr. Bradford. They have no voice whatsoever because they are compounding the undemocratic behavior of the leader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it would appear that everyone who has so far spoken in favor of having a convention, that they seem to have been sort of sidelined and alienated. Yes, we're talking about Dr. Mitchell's relationships with, for example, former MP for St. Patrick East, Mrs. Pamela Moses. We're talking about people like Mrs. Clarice Charles. We're talking about people like Mr. Lawrence Joseph, now Dr. Brathwaite, now Mr. Boatswain. So it would appear as if the cards are falling out of favor with Dr. Mitchell.
Well, that's it. If he doesn't get his own way, I see Dr. Mitchell as the Putin of Grenada or the Putin of NNP. If he doesn't go his way, he will chastise you. Mm-hmm. And once you are not 100% behind him, he will do everything to get rid of you. And that is the undemocratic behavior of Dr. Mitchell. Mm-hmm. But again, Bob, when you live all your life controlling the people around you, 5 years after 5 years, then it becomes your cultural development. Mm-hmm. Your cultural development is to control everybody around you. You can't change. And so Dr. Mitchell can't change his behavior because all along, this is what he did. In the first NNP, he did everything to get rid of people who will not support him. He did everything to get rid of me. He did everything to get rid of George Brizan and Francis Alexis in the New National Party. That was his strategy for leadership. He then tricked Mr. Blaze to get the leadership. And I have no problem in Dr. Mitchell tricking Mr. Blaze and get the leadership in 1989 because Mr. Blaze did not deserve leadership of the NNP at that time. But then Dr. Mitchell hasn't learned. He has grown to be a dictator. And so once you tend not to listen to him or follow him, he will get rid of you.
Sort of a Machiavellian way of doing things, I suppose, in politics.
And that is happening in politics all around. Some are more blatant than others, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then he is going to this leadership thing and he can't give it up. Mm-hmm. He can't give it up. Dr. Mitchell cannot give up leadership. I believe he exercised rigidly. And I don't believe he will give up exercising.
Mm-hmm. Right. Talking about that physical exercise. Now, yes. Let us talk about the Peter David factor. Now, our reporting tells us that Peter David was one of only 2 executive members of the party who voted against the party's unanimous decision to disinvite Dr. Brathwaite from executive meetings. What's your take on that? And how do you think Dr. Mitchell and the executive would now treat with Mr. Peter David, knowing that Mr. David also has an intention to contest the leadership of the party?
Now, Dr. Mitchell has been treating Peter David with contempt, maybe halfway during the second term. But of course, they live with it. And after the election is even worse. He treats him with contempt and he avoids him. Obviously, Peter David has shown that he's getting stronger every day by voting against the move to silence Dr. Bradford. He showed that he's building his stature in leadership. Whatever is the consequences, I don't know what will be, but he has shown that kind of stature. Now, if it's a democratic vote within the party and two people voted differently, you can't do them anything. But I guess Peter Davis is smarter than Dr. Mitchell. He's not doing anything publicly so that they should threaten him with disciplinary measure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's showing his leadership, he's showing his stature is above all else, and he's not doing anything. All he says, look, I am in the leadership, and so be it. So, of course, as the pressure goes up on Dr. Mitchell, he will want to do anything possible to make sure that he has no opposition within the executive. Now, he can't get rid of Peter David because he's an elected member. Every elected member is automatically a member of the executive.
Executive, yes.
And,
But I believe Peter also has
recording secretary. Yeah.
Yes. He also has an elected role in the executive, if I'm not, isn't he Assistant General Secretary, the party?
I think so, yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So you can not invite them. You can take disciplinary action against them, but then there's no grounds for it because the guys are showing that they're very mature. They're not projecting this immaturity that the present leader is doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you know, anything can happen. As the pressure rises, he will do anything to make sure he has power and ultimate power.
Mm-hmm. And two final questions, and perhaps if there are any follow-ups, we are also going to talk about it. But one has to do with another point that Mr. Boatswain made in respect of what is happening on the ground. Mr. Boatswain articulated on GBN's Beyond the Headlines that there is a swing against Dr. Mitchell in the rank and file of the new National Party. Do you agree with that? I'm talking about the masses now, the rank and file, the vanguard, if you will, the masses of the party, not the executive per se, but the masses, the people on the ground who are affiliated with the party are swinging away from Dr. Mitchell. Would that be an accurate assessment of the situation?
Yeah, I think Mr. Boatswain is quite correct. On the ground, there is a swing. They're looking for new leadership. And so there is a swing away from him. But you know, the mamagism, as you would say, when he comes around, they'll say, yes, Doc, we're supporting you. But it is not so. And it's strange that a doctor of statistics can be fooled by the ordinary people. There is a swing. So I want to support Mr. Boatswain that there is a swing on the ground by the rank and file. They pretend when he comes around that they support him, but they know fully well if he's the leader in the next election, they have no chance of winning.
And speaking of next elections, now Dr. Mitchell's calculation, some pundits are saying that Dr. Mitchell's calculation is that he has recalibrated his approach to exiting the political stage on the variable that the National Democratic Congress will fail. And so he has to come in, they would fail in government. And so he has to come in as a knight in shining armor to rescue the country again. What is your what are your thoughts on that idea?
You see, he has had that position before where he came to rescue it after the Tillman Thomas failure
Yes.
administration. This is a different scenario. The present prime minister is a completely different person to Tillman Thomas. PM Dickon Mitchell is in full control of his party and government.
Mm-hmm.
He may be a newcomer, he doesn't have the experience, but I believe they're trying. I believe if most of his ministers probably do as much as him, they would be stronger. But there is no way, I don't believe there is any way that the present government will fail before the 5-year term. I believe they will make out the term and they will call elections. And Dr. Mitchell better be very careful. If they call a snap election on him and the wrangling continues for leadership, then they will win easy. They will have an easier win. If by next year, PM Dickon Mitchell decides to call an election and the NNP doesn't get its house in order, then the present government under Dickon Mitchell can record a win for a second time. So he has to be careful, stop destroying the NNP and allow democracy to rise once again and let the people decide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the Peter David factor now, and I promise this will be my final question, and I'll go over to closing comments. Although I said 2 final questions, but
That's all right.
The Peter David factor, sir. Let's just assume that the party, they're able to iron out all of their kinks, and Peter David emerges as the political leader, or MP Emmeline Pear emerges as a political leader, even though she is qualified how she will proceed with offering herself up for leadership, which is not necessarily a challenge, right? But what would that dynamic look like in a Dickon Mitchell NDC versus either an Emmeline Pear, Peter David matchup in a general election? Would the dynamics change, and would the NNP be competitive with either of those 2 new faces going into the polls?
Well, I believe the NNP can be very dynamic with a Peter David leadership, and it will be a serious challenge to the present government. As long as it remains as it is, PM Dickon Mitchell is in the driver's seat. But if the dynamics change and you get a Peter David, at least a Peter David leadership, who have a lot more political experience, and I think who is highly favored by the NNPites, highly favored by the voters that drift. I call them the drifting voters who make parties win. He's highly favored. And so the present government can have a challenge on their hand with that new leadership. Now, if you don't have that leadership and you get the PM Keith Mitchell leadership, then I believe they will win easily. So an easier win for the present government is 1, if the NNP is in disarray; 2, if Dr. Keith Mitchell remains as leader, then the NDC has a better chance.
Okay, very, very well. Interesting times ahead. Mr. Lalsingh, any final comments from me before we get to the second segment, sir?
No, I think we have said it all. Thank you very much, and I hope whatever I contributed will help your program and help other people see, because you see, always show a different spin and show things what can happen. Mm-hmm. So I hope it made sense. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the Bud Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show. Follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.